Thank you. This is my first appearance here, and I appreciate this opportunity to express my government's strong dedication to the Helsinki Final Act and the OSCE's Human Dimensions commitments. I'm pleased and very proud to report that earlier this morning President Obama was awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace for his efforts to strengthen international diplomacy and cooperation among peoples. 2 weeks ago, when he addressed the UN General Assembly, President Obama called for a new era of U.S. engagement in the world. He expressed our determination to be a leader in meeting the complex challenges of global prosperity and peace, and he emphasized that respect for human rights and democracy is essential to sustain prosperity and lasting security. This address built on themes he sounded in Cairo, in Moscow, and Accra earlier this year. Our approach here and elsewhere is guided by three tenets: a commitment to principled engagement, as we do here, a determination that all, including ourselves, are responsible to upholding universal principles of human rights, and a fidelity to the truth. The United States is deeply committed to the OSCE and its comprehensive concept of security. We are participating actively in the Corfu process to ensure that the OSCE, including its human dimension, is strengthened to meet 21st century challenges. We seek to tackle the OSCE's greatest task, improving the implementation of the OSCE commitments. To this end, we value the work of the Director of ODIHR and his expert staff, the representatives on freedom of the media, the three tolerance representatives, and the High Commissioner for National Minorities. We stand ready to engage in an open, constructive discussion on improving the OSCE's effectiveness. The second tenet of our approach is universality. We committed to these principles reflected in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, embodied in international law, and enshrined in this Helsinki Final Act and OSCE agreements. President Obama's decision on his second day of office to end abusive interrogations, to close the detention facility at Guantanamo, and to review security detention policies more generally are emblematic of our commitment to apply these principles to ourselves. Our own record has been a matter for discussion here, and we take our human dimension commitment seriously. We do not consider expressions of concern about our record interference in our internal affairs. We have made every effort to respond to specific concerns, though it's been difficult to address unsourced or vague criticisms. But we do stand ready to respond whenever specifics are provided. The third tenet of our approach here and elsewhere is telling the truth about human rights conditions. We've emphasized our deep concerns about increasing incidents of discrimination and violence, the denial of fundamental freedoms of thought, conscience, religion, or belief, expression, peaceful assembly, and association. So-called extremism laws, onerous requirements, and defamation laws also constrain the legitimate peaceful activities of civil society. All too often, human rights defenders and journalists are themselves targets for persecution. The lethal attacks on Natalia Estemirova, and 3 years ago this week on Anna Politkovskaya, are deeply troubling reminders of the risks human rights defenders face. A climate of intimidation and impunity is antithetical to the rule of law, and it's precisely in areas like this where the gap between commitment and implementation is greatest, and where we must continue our efforts. We encourage the upcoming chair of the OSCE to enhance its capacity to tackle the tough human dimension issues. We call upon Kazakhstan to show leadership by example and to make steady progress toward meeting its commitments at Madrid, including reducing criminal liability for defamation. We call upon all parties to fulfill their ceasefire commitments with respect to the conflicts in Ossetia and Abkhazia. We urge the continued active participation of Russia and Georgia in the Geneva talks aimed at facilitating security and stability in the region, including full access to international humanitarian groups. We look forward to exchanging ideas with governments and NGOs as we shape proposals for the human dimension for consideration at the OSCE Ministerial in December. Finally, I want to add a note on the important contributions of NGOs and civil society, a key theme for both President Obama and Secretary Clinton. The subject has special resonance for me because I've spent the past 30 years working as an NGO advocate. We've heard concerns about NGO participation here. Some participating states have suggested that new constraints be placed on NGO participation. My government strongly disagrees. The participation of NGOs on an equal footing with governments here is what makes HDIM such a valuable forum. I look forward to working with OSCE colleagues to advance human dignity and the human dimension of the Helsinki Final Act. On behalf of our delegation, I wish to thank the government of Poland and ODIHR for being such welcoming hosts. Thank you.